All right, guys. So once again, we got to talk about Dumb Down News Network, right? That's what I'm calling CNN, okay? Dumb Down News Network. Because Dumb Down News Network always finds a way to never talk about the substance of an issue, but to instead always boohoo, whine, and cry bigotry, hate, or something to distract from the real conversation. And here we go again. We got to talk about CNN having an existential crisis over Trump echoing Putin at a campaign rally after Trump basically said that, hey, even Putin agrees that Biden is politically persecuting me, right? Even Putin can see it. It's that obvious. It's that obvious what's happening, okay? So instead of addressing the subject of whether or not Biden is actually weaponizing the DOJ and the three-letter agencies to go after his political opponents. No. They don't want to talk about that. They want to melt down over Trump just saying that, hey, Putin agrees with me. Okay, which, yeah, I'm not sure why that's so bad for him to say that, well, Putin agrees with me on this, as if Putin can never be right. Okay, everything Putin says is wrong. Okay, even though he's a dictator. I'm just saying, you would think it would take a dictator to know a dictator, right? He would be able to recognize a dictator better than anybody. And it seems that Putin has recognized that Biden might be a dictator. But again, instead of engaging in the actual substance of the conversation, which is whether or not Biden's actually a dictator, why would Putin even say that in the first place? No. They want to smear Putin. They want to smear Trump in order to deflect from the real conversation. This is one of these things I tell you guys. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Quite literally, every subject that these people talk about, this is how they talk about the issue. They never actually talk about the substance of an issue. It really is a shame, right? So without further ado, let's get into it.
Washington, where the state of our union is frankly stunned, watching the leading Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump, quote one of our nation's foremost adversaries, Vladimir Putin, as a sort of character witness while on the stump in New Hampshire last night.
Vladimir Putin of Russia says that Biden's, and this is a quote, politically motivated persecution of his political rival is very good for Russia because it shows the rottenness of the American political system, which cannot pretend to teach others about democracy.
Hey, right? Hey, I'm just saying, again, regardless of what you think about Putin, I think that the real conversation that should be had from CNN is whether or not this is true. Does Putin have a point? Okay, if this is something that he actually said, okay, I'm pretty sure he did because, Trump is quoting it. So if Putin actually said this, then again, the conversation should be about Putin bad, Trump quoting Batman Putin, right? It really should be about, does he have a point? Okay, can we as a country lecture other countries about democracy when our democracy ain't really a democracy, right? For multiple reasons outside of just Biden allegedly weaponizing the DOJ and the three-letter agencies to go after political opponents. It's far deeper than that, man. I mean, we live in a corporatocracy. I think that's one of the first things I will bring up when people want to argue that America's a democracy, which I already know these people in the comment section. Yes, America's a republic. I get it. Okay, I get it. But I'm just saying, when you look at how much influence money has in our politics, again, is it really democratic when elections can be bought? Is it really democratic when politicians can be bought? Right? I'm just saying, there's a lot of reasons to question whether or not America is actually a democracy, or put it this way, an example of a democracy that other countries should follow at this point. Okay.
One might think such a point need not be made, but Vladimir Putin, a former KGB official with blood on his hands, who regularly sides with American adversaries, both rhetorically and with arms, and who right now has at least two Americans, Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan, unjustly detained. Vladimir Putin is not a credible source of information about American democracy, much less American jurisprudence.
And you know who also is not a credible source of information when it comes to that? The mainstream liberal media. This is the same mainstream liberal media that claims to care so much about American democracy, but yet has not said a word about Florida Democrats canceling the primary, right? Florida Democrats literally are trying to cancel their primary and make Joe Biden a winner by default by not letting the other candidates on the ballot. So now these other candidates are having to sue and to make a lot of noise about what's happening down there in Florida, and the mainstream liberal media has nothing to say about it. They're not covering it. But these are the same people that claim that they care so much about American democracy when you literally have the guy in the White House in the Democrat Party overthrowing democracy in states in their own primaries, and they're silent. But yeah, we're supposed to trust you. We're supposed to trust you over a foreign adversary in regards to the state of democracy in this country when you won't even talk about something that is clearly anti-democratic going on in our own country. You won't cover it. But yet we're supposed to trust you. You're supposed to be the number one trustworthy source for talking about the state of this democracy. Amazing stuff.
Vladimir Putin seeks to undermine the United States and its allies, whether in Europe or Asia or the Middle East. And yet, despite this, or maybe by now because of it, I can no longer tell, Mr. Trump stands poised to do very well in the Republican Iowa caucuses on January 15th in less than a month. He has only expanded his lead. Doug, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just empirically stunning, for any major presidential candidate to be quoting approvingly Vladimir Putin smearing American democracy. I don't care if it's Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, or Donald Trump. It's absolutely stunning.
Again, this is so low level intellectually from Jake Tapper, right? And Jake Tapper is one of the better CNN anchors, okay? Jake Tapper is the same guy that I will say, he didn't really fall for the Russia thing, okay? He actually did have some skepticism when Adam Schiff came on his show when it came to the Russia thing. So I got to give Jake Tapper a little bit of credit, but this is beneath him intellectually. Again, he's acting like just because Putin's a bad guy, that means that anything he says is not credible, okay? And again, this line of logic and reasoning, again, is beneath Jake Tapper because this is the same type of stuff I see all the time, even from people on the right? Somebody on the left will say something and they'll automatically dismiss it because somebody on the left said it because it was somebody that you normally would disagree with or somebody you don't like or somebody that you don't find credible. But that's not how you're supposed to engage with statements, right? You're supposed to evaluate the statement in and of itself, not the person that said the statement. Now, clearly and obviously, you should take into account who said the statement, but really most of the evaluation should be, okay, well, is this statement true? Okay, is this statement true? Not smearing the person, right? Not smearing the messenger, but is the statement true? Okay, does Putin have a point here? Okay, will that be discussed on CNN? No, right? What will be discussed is why is Trump quoting Putin? Not is what Putin said true, right? They're not going to talk about that.
It's stunning, but it's not surprising because we've seen Trump do this time and time again. This isn't new news with Donald Trump. It's just the latest iteration of what strongman he wants to connect him to. But while this is Trump echoing Putin, it's not clear that this is really echoing throughout the country. We see these clips, people absorb them, and then they go out and they buy a sandwich. And that sandwich is $15 now when it used to be $9.75 before COVID. Everything that Americans are spending money on is more expensive today, or they're not spending money because they can't afford the financing for a car or a house. And at the same time, we have the CBS poll that shows that just 7% think that Joe Biden has the strength and stamina to be president. I think that's what voters are reacting to. It's why Trump is leading in these polls, despite what he's been saying in campaign rallies throughout the country.
Reality check there from Doug. Karen?
Well, okay, but I think it's a bit un-American for a former president to be lauding a dictator who
Don't disagree.
is holding to Americans. And in the context of a presidential contest, when we are seeing actually economic numbers moving in a more positive direction, we'll see if that holds. I do think this matters to Americans. I do think people will question, particularly when it is a binary choice. Who is it? I mean, that kind of talk is actually also bad for the American economy. That's not going to make markets feel particularly confident. That's not going to help bring costs down. That's not a person who has an agenda for trying to bring costs down. So I completely agree with the economic concerns.
Wow.
But again, the presidential election becomes, who of these two men cares about me and is actually going to try to make my life better? I don't think the guy quoting Putin is the one.
All of that means that Joe Biden should be up by 15 points then, and he's not. And you
Exactly. Right. This guy right here deserves a gold star, right? Give this guy a gold star. Okay. He's probably Trump deranged too, but give him a gold star for at least, being in touch with reality. This woman right here who used to work for Hillary, I believe, she's delusional, right? Clueless. Trump echoing Putin is going to crash the markets, right? It's bad for the economy. As if that has anything to do with the economy. Again, that's how desperate these people are. But again, notice what I tell you guys. There's no substance here, guys. They never engage with the actual subject. The thing, like they always take any little thing that Trump says, right? In the larger context of what he's saying, they take some small thing that he says and they project it out of context to make it mean something that it doesn't mean. And then they just focus on that the whole time, but they never want to engage in the real subject. Okay, it reminds me again when Trump came out and was joking about being a dictator for a day at Fox News town hall. Now, he talked about how Biden had set the precedent for this to happen, for him to do these things, okay, because of what's happening right now. But instead of actually engaging with the full context of what Trump was saying and the point that he was making, they take one little snippet and say, well, Trump said he's going to be a dictator. You can't believe he's only going to be a dictator for a day, right? I mean, again, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? You can't unsee it. These people never engage. They never engage with the actual subject. It's so hilarious to me.
You drill down in the states, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Trump's doing very well.
So it's not just the media and Trump's rivals like Nikki Haley and Chris Christie that are criticizing him. Former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan said some very stark criticism of Donald Trump that I've never heard him say publicly quite as starkly before. Let's roll that.
Trump's not a conservative. He's an authoritarian narcissist. He's a populist authoritarian narcissist. So historically speaking, all of his tendencies are, basically where narcissism takes him, which is whatever makes him popular, makes him feel good at any given moment. He thinks in an authoritarian way, and he's been able to get a big chunk of the Republican base to follow him because, he's the culture warrior.
Look, I mean, I'm glad. Welcome to the party, Paul Ryan. Where have you been for so long? Before it was Donald Trump shouldn't run because he wasn't electable, not because he was an authoritarian, even after January 6th. So, good.
Again, it's amazing to me how these people, especially these never Trump Republicans, like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, they can sound the alarm bells on Trump being an authoritarian, even though we know when Trump had the opportunity to actually be an authoritarian, particularly during the pandemic, he didn't do it. When he had an opportunity to be authoritarian after the 2020 election, after January 6th, he didn't do it. Every chance that Trump had to actually be an authoritarian, he declined, right? But yeah, these people keep claiming he's an authoritarian. However, every chance that Biden gets in regards to being an authoritarian, he takes it. But yet these people aren't crying about Biden being an authoritarian. Again, it's amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing to me. This is why these people are not credible, especially never Trumpers, because they always want to trash Trump, but they never want to trash Biden. And see, the reason why they don't ever want to trash Biden is because they start getting on the network and start trashing Biden, they're not going to have a job anymore, right? They don't want to hear never Trumpers talk about their own policies or anything like that. All they want to hear them do is trash Trump. And they especially don't want to hear him trash Biden, right? They get up there, they start trashing Biden, accusing Biden of being authoritarian. They're going to be out of a job. They won't be on CNN and MSNBC anymore.
And I'm glad more Republicans, including Paul Ryan, are starting to see the threat, as we just were discussing him quoting Vladimir Putin. I guess my question, though, is I don't actually know if the Putin comments are going to impact Donald Trump or not. Because I think we're seeing more and more Americans become more and more extreme, particularly on the right. And the Republican Party...
Some on the left, too.
Some on the left, yes, but we're talking about Trump now.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, but see here, what's a bigger threat to this country? Extremism from the left or extremism from the right? Again, I can't think of any major act of political violence committed by anybody on the right outside of January 6th in the last 3 or 4 years. Can't think of anything. But I can think of a lot of them from the left, okay? I can think of a whole lot of them from the left, okay? This is how people want to deflect. See, here's the thing. In some cases, whataboutism is appropriate. Whataboutism is appropriate when the whataboutism highlights the fact that an issue is much worse coming from a different group of people or another situation than what is currently being highlighted, and the fact that this person doesn't want to have that conversation. Again, When you bring up the left and their extremism, which is much worse than any extremism on the right in this country, when you bring up the left and their extremism, oh no, but we're talking about Trump right now. We're talking about Trump right now, right? Again, it's amazing. You talk about Trump all the damn time. You should talk more about the extremism on the left. It will make your network more credible.
But Republicans used to be, against Russia, and now they're the party that doesn't even want to support Ukraine and the war to fight against a dictator. So I hear you, Doug, about, why isn't Joe Biden 15 points ahead? I don't think it's a comparison right now to Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Right now, we just talked about Nikki Haley. He's still up over Nikki Haley, over Ron DeSantis, over Vivek Ramaswamy, over Chris Christie. So the party is moving in such a way that
you guys just keep telling yourselves that. Keep whistling past the graveyard, ladies.
I'm not saying, no, first of all, I'm not saying that.
Hold up, David.
Okay, let me just be real clear. I'm not saying in a general election, if it's Trump against Trump, there will be some comparisons. But I'm saying right now, your party is actually having a primary, and the comparison is people who want to stand up against Russia, want to stand up for democracy, and someone who doesn't. Yeah. And your front runner is someone who doesn't.
I think we all agree that Donald Trump, A, is likely to get the nomination, although anything could happen, and B, could very well be elected. I don't think there's anybody on this panel who disagrees with that.
Amazing, right? Absolutely amazing stuff. Not once during this whole 7-minute segment, okay, did they engage with the actual subject of what Trump was discussing, the argument that Trump was making, which is that I'm being politically persecuted by the Biden administration. The DOJ has been weaponized by Democrats to go after their political opponents. Not once did they engage in that subject, right? They didn't talk about that once. Because it's not a conversation that they want to have on their network. They don't even want to entertain the possibility that maybe the DOJ, the three-letter agencies, are being weaponized by the Democrats in the Biden administration. But they want to sit up here and they want to have a conversation, again, a 7-minute panel conversation about Trump quoting Putin, but they don't want to actually talk about the quote in and of itself, right? They never talk about the quote. They just talk about the fact that, well, Trump quote Putin, therefore is bad. When again, this is intellectually beneath, right, so-called journalists, right? People like Jake Tapper, CNN, or maybe it's not. I don't know, right? Maybe I'm holding CNN to too high of a standard, okay? Maybe that's it. I don't know. But like I tell you guys, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Anytime you listen to these people talk, they never engage with the subject. And it's because if they engage with the subject, then that goes against the narrative, right? It goes against the narrative. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.